New York City Mayor Eric Adams dramatically changing his stance on deporting migrants who commit criminal acts in the city, now vowing to align with Trump's incoming border czar Tom Homan on deportations. Earlier today, our Martha MacCallum got a wide-ranging interview with the mayor. She joins us now for a preview. And Martha, one of the things I was struck with in this clip that we're going to play here is that Eric Adams basically says it should be no surprise that there is an explosion of migrant crime in New York City. Listen here.
Think about this for a moment. We're allowing people to come in without a sponsor, without any employment, and we're telling them, you can't work. So what are they going to do? We're creating a pipeline of criminality by creating these terrible criteria.
Well, I'll tell you, his position on this, it's almost shocking how much it's changed.
Well, John, I would say yes and no in some ways. He talks about the difference between a sanctuary city, which he says New York City still is, and the services that are offered for law-abiding citizens who come into this country. And he's not talking about changing that, but he's saying that he has always been in favor of law and order and a safe city. And when you look at the history of the pushback between Adams and the White House, President Biden came up and did an event in New York right after Eric Adams was elected and Joe Biden was elected, and they did a gun safety forum here in New York City. But then when Adams started to push back, when there were, 4,000 people coming in at a clip and say, we need some help here, this is not what we bargained for, suddenly the phone lines at the White House went very cold and they stopped responding to him. And he talks about what he thinks happened after that may have something to do, in his opinion, with the legal situation that he now finds himself in, John.
No, that's interesting. But he's vowing to stand strong in the face of criticism. This is what he said a couple of weeks ago.
Well, cancel me, because I'm going to protect the people of this city. And if you come into this country, in this city, and think you're going to harm innocent New Yorkers and innocent migrants and asylum seekers, this is not the mayor you want to be in the city under.
He says, look, you can try to cancel me. You can say whatever you want. Bring it on, because I'm looking out for New Yorkers. And that is a bit of a different stance than he had in the early days as mayor.
I mean, it may sound like it. He has butted heads with his city council. I mean, obviously, this is a very blue city, but when you look at the situation in Washington, when a president doesn't have the House and doesn't have the Congress, now this is a Democratic city council, to be sure, and he is a Democrat mayor, but they are on edges of the spectrum that do not match up. So when he wanted to remove tent cities from the city, which he eventually did, they had problems with that. When he wanted to remove mentally ill people from the streets, they've removed thousands of them at this point. He gave law enforcement the ability to do that. And that was months and months ago. They butted heads on that. Now they're very angry about this sit down with Tom Homan and the possibility of reopening an ICE office over at Rikers Island. So although this is obviously a blue city, he's a Democrat mayor. He is at odds with the government and the city council here in the city that he deals with in the Big Apple. So it's a very interesting dichotomy that's playing out here, John.
And it really is interesting the way that the DOJ turned its sights on him when he started to speak out. And Donald Trump thinks the same thing, and even says that when he becomes president on January the 20th, he might issue a pardon. Listen to what he said at Mar-a-Lago on Monday.
Would you consider pardoning Eric Adams?
Yeah, I would. Yeah. I think that he was treated pretty unfairly. Now, I haven't seen the gravity of it all, but it seems, like being upgraded in an airplane many years ago. I know probably everybody here has been upgraded.
At that Al Smith dinner back in October, where Trump was in attendance, as was Eric Adams, Trump really seemed to find common ground with Adams.
I think
we're both treated unfairly here.
I think they do feel like they have a connection on this. Also, they both love this city. And I think that you're seeing President-elect Trump try to rebuild his ties to New York City. It is where he's from, and it's a city that he loves. On the other hand, you hear the language from President-elect Trump, and he says, basically, if it's just an upgrade on an airplane, then that's not a big deal. But he says, I haven't seen the whole gravity of it yet. And we should keep in mind that there may be more charges coming from the Department of Justice. Also, Alvin Bragg has a suit against the sitting mayor, Eric Adams. And this situation and the investigation are not over. So we have to be mindful of the fact that there are perhaps more shoes to drop in this story. And we'll continue to cover the whole thing, John.
Well, Donald Trump can certainly get rid of the federal charges if state charges are brought. That's That's a whole different kettle of fish. Martha, we look forward to the entire interview coming up.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.